Hi folks, Doc here. Happy Sunday everybody. It's just a little above freezing here, and as you can see behind me the snow has melted because we had a bit of a warm patch there. It'll be back. Mind you, I had a much warmer patch than this. I just got back from a trip to Florida. Kind of a whirlwind tour of the United States. Yep, I did it again. Drove down by car. I'll tell you about that in a minute, as well as this particular project that I'm going to be working on shortly. Stick around. If I could get away with not driving anywhere for about the next week, I surely would. I just logged just short of 5,000 kilometers, which for you American folks is somewhere in the order of 3,500 miles in the course of the last almost 2 weeks. Drove down to Pensacola, Florida. That was a hell of a road trip. This is the second time we've done it within the past year. I did it about 7 months ago, as you probably were. It was quite the drive. We entered through Buffalo and went down across the New York State Thruway and a slice of Pennsylvania, down into Ohio, a bunch of dipsy-doodling around. Ended up in West Virginia and met up with my pal Patrick, had dinner with him and his wife. That was lovely. And drove on a little bit further, and as we're getting into the southernmore end of West Virginia, we wound up getting routed by my GPS off the interstate, I guess because there was a toll there and I should have just paid the damn toll, but I guess I'm cheap or whatever. And we ended up doing these back roads. It was kind of like the tail of the dragon, except it wasn't the tail of the dragon. It was wicked though, really, really twisty and awesome, and you know, it's 10:30 at night or whatever the hell the case may be, and I'm tired as hell and I can't see anything, and I got a car full of kids in my little Subaru, and I'm ripping these twists and having a grand old time, so that was a thrill. And we spent the night at a hotel in Whiteville, Virginia. Enjoyed that because I needed the rest, and continued on. Drove out from there, and we hit Tennessee, and of course all the way down through Alabama. I think we did a slice of Georgia while we were going that way, and down into Florida the next day. And then we spent a good week with my good friend, my brother from another mother, Randy, and his lovely wife and kids, and had a grand old time. And the trip back up was pretty much the same thing with slightly different routing, except this time we kind of stayed a little bit more to the west, and we went up and we stayed in Ohio overnight. And it's a good thing we did too, because a hell of a storm blew up, and a few of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. We spent the night at the mercy of, with the hospitality of the Morons. I'm going to put their channel links in the description below, but it's Stretch 44875, I believe. These guys with their numbers, eh? And the Rainbow Boxer, and these guys do their annual Haspin run as well as a bunch of other stuff. They've got some great videos. You're going to have to check them out. And then we just kind of continued on up into New York State and crossed over and came home again. So it was a lot of driving, a lot of miles, but a hell of a good trip. Anytime a good Canadian boy can catch a sunburn in February, you're doing well. The trip itself did go fairly well. I had some car problems which I was able to surmount. Tranny was acting a little bit weird. Checked the fluid, for some reason I was low. Didn't find any leaks or anything, but topped that up. That was okay. Had a check engine light for a while, and I think that might have been just the old loose fuel cap routine. The most exciting thing I think about all of it was while we were sitting in line at customs ready to come across to Canada again, the damn car overheated. And it had turned out, I found out later, that my cooling fans had quit working. That was exciting. So we're boiling over at the border. I'm trying to talk fast with the guard going, let me in so I can get back on the damn highway, get some air through the radiator and cool this pig off. And we stopped about an hour and a half from there. Got some more coolant to make up for what had been missing. And at first I thought the relay was bad on the fan, so I broke my pair of sunglasses and kind of MacGyvered a wire shunt out of the metal arm of the sunglasses to bypass the relay, kick-started the fan with my finger, and drove home from there. As it turns out, like I said, the fans had packed up. I think the one was dead for a while and the second one just decided to go. So, we're solving that problem. We're good. We on the way back up, we went into Kentucky, and we were planning on staying in Louisville. Well, we did stay in Louisville. Just before we got to Louisville, the fuel tank was screaming at me. I guess I, didn't quite have enough gas or wasn't comfortable enough, and Stopped by a little bit south of Louisville, just outside a little town called Glasgow. Yeah. Anyways, got up into Louisville. Glasgow, yeah, that guy. Got up into Louisville, and you know, when you're looking at hotels online and motels, and I mean, you're when we stayed in Florida, we stayed at a really nice hotel. Into Louisville, it was just like finding a cheap room for the night so we could crash. Well, let me tell you something, we picked the wrong frickin' hotel, man. It was Super 8, I think it was. And yeah, damn, the cockroaches are walking around going, ooh, this is dirty. Anyways, survived that crap, and like I said, my moron pals put us up in Ohio in their RV trailer, and that was actually a really nice night. It was heated, it was sheltered, and it was a good thing because that was a hell of a storm. I know guys that, you know, lost buildings and had property damage from that storm, and it was pretty scary for a while. We were actually planning on shooting some tractor stuff with the morons, and then the temperature just dropped like a stone. The wind kicked up like nobody's business, and snow and sleet and hail and locusts from heaven and frogs and crap. It was just evil. Anywho, enough about the trip. That was cool. What you see before you is my first of what I plan to have two official entries into the ATLTF 2018 build-off. For those of you not familiar with the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum, we do have an annual build-off competition. I did not enter last year, but I did win in 2016 with the Diesel Weasel. So there's this one here, and I'm planning another one. I'm still waiting for some things to come into alignment on the other build. So I'm sure some of you are already familiar with the senseless Suburban, as I've termed it. For the competition, by the way, I had to mock up this picture with, you know, part sources and yada yada yada, although nothing is ever final. I've already started on this thing. I've installed a Honda GX 390 13 horse single cylinder air-cooled engine. Oh, that wind is something, isn't it? And I've got tires and bits and pieces. But the whole concept behind the senseless Suburban is for me to build a trail machine. You know, it's not going to be a mudder per se or a recovery machine or anything special like that. Just something that I can go bash on the trails with my buddies up north there, with not a cent to be spent. That's right, I'm putting absolutely no money into this thing. No way, no how. I mean, obviously fuel and oil and stuff like that, you know, kind of don't count. But the build itself is stuff that I've traded for, stuff that I have already acquired and have been sitting around for a long time. A lot of this stuff I've had for a long time. Stuff that I have been given, you know, found stuff, you know, stuff that I'm going to have to wind up fabricating and making, because I just wanted to see, you know, what I could do without actually spending any money, because there's a lot of talk about, you know, I spent this on my machine or I spent that on my machine, and, you know, God bless you if you can do it, great. I put a fair amount of money into the Weasel, although when you look at it, you see rust, right? And I'm not done spending money on machines, that's to be sure. But this time around, I just wanted to see what I could do without laying out any cash. Again, I apologize for the wind. I have no control over Mother Nature. So what we have here is a Sears Suburban. I think I determined it was a 73 SS16. I can't remember offhand. I'm going to have to look up the numbers again. I acquired this quite some time ago, and I think it appeared in a video when I picked it up, or shortly after. Might have been one of my raining parts videos or something like that. And it had these turfs on it that were modified for pulling. They've been cut, and instead I'm putting these ITP mud lights on the rear, 26, 10, 12. They're in excellent condition. I'd love to be able to use those rims, but the back spacing is terrible, and obviously the bolt pattern doesn't work out, so to hell with it. I'm gonna have to do a rim swap. I might use these factory rims, or I might use another pair that I have, who knows. Anyways, these tires came off a burnt up ATV that I've used as a parts donor for a few things now. I was saving these tires for the Kaiser build. When I actually get my ducks lined up in enough of a row, I'll just buy new tires for the Kaiser, no big deal. Pan seat, I bought two when I bought Commandos because they were on sale, so for 10 bucks a crack I'm going to buy an extra one. There it is, because this seat kind of sucks and the upholstery on it is shredded and all that stuff. Front tires. I actually took the factory wheels and tires off this thing and traded it off, put it on the wheel horse and then traded off the wheel horse. So these things are just Honda rims that don't even really fit. And when I put the engine on this thing and drove it around, I was afraid the wheels were going to fall off, and they didn't, and that's just because they're kind of half stuck. Metric bore imperial spindle. Yeah, okay. There's the Honda GX390 air-cooled 13-horse single-cylinder. You guys probably watched the video that I did on that fairly recently, where I basically bashed that off another one to make one good engine with all the features I wanted. Things running strong. It's been degoverned. That's going to be a little interesting on the trail. This will be the first time I've trailed anything without a governor at all. So, getting back to the front tires, you guys know I like my pizza cutters. There's Commando over there with the pizza cutters. And I've got a set of pizza cutters for the Gorilla build when I get around to that damn thing. Anyways, these things are a little bit smaller. They are 4x10, and I'm trying to remember what the overall diameter is, and I think it's on the nature of 21, 22 inches if I recall. So they're fairly narrow, as you can see. They're absolutely brand new Kendas. And I can thank my pal Chris Manis from City Slicker Builds on YouTube for these things. I picked them up from him on my last trip down south, and squirreled them away for, I was going to use them sometime. Now, as you can see, these are 4-bolt hubs, and you guys know that I go to bolt-on whenever I can because I really hate all the other retention methods, although the Sears garden tractors do use a pretty healthy nut and a lock pin and stuff. And I was really wondering about this build and how I was going to get those things onto the spindle without actually purchasing anything, and I started cutting apart an old lawn tractor wheel and screwing around with that. And then my pal Patrick, whom I met in West Virginia on my way down to Florida, hooked me up with these hubs, and they're off an old ATV. And the bolt pattern is actually a millimeter or two out, but the bolts still go through the holes, and it's close enough for a trail rig. The other thing I noticed is that I think the bearing diameter is a little bit large, so I might have to come up with a shim, but they're ball bearings, and that's pretty good. I like that. So that is how I'm going to put those front wheels on this front axle. Okay, moving on. This thing is going to have a winch, and that's a Harbor Freight 2,500 pound Badlands winch, and they're pretty popular amongst all the American lawn tractor builder guys. And I've got the synthetic wire rope and the Fairlead and the winch plate and all that stuff. And that stuff there, I can thank Doug Fackler at the All Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum. He's the guy that owns and runs the forum now, and that was part of my 2016 build-off prize package for winning the build-off. So thank you, Doug. I really appreciate that. And keep in mind, folks, that this wasn't, corporately sponsored. Doug went out of pocket for these prizes, and he still does. And we all appreciate that greatly. All right, I've got a couple of lighting options here. This cool 3 LED light brush guard was hand fabricated by Mr. Modified 1 on YouTube, Mr. Modified on the All Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum, generously donated as part of the prize package for the 2016 build-off. I might use that. It's a nice little unit. I know it's in a little bit of shadow right now, but it's pretty cool. 3 LED light pods on a custom-built brush guard there with the little wire mesh. The mesh is a nice touch. Might use that, haven't decided yet. Got to kind of see how it fits and finishes on this particular body. And I've also got this 12-inch LED light bar. This is pretty much the same LED light bar that I used on Suburban Commando, and I picked this up off Amazon a while ago, and this is before I got hooked up with the folks at Nylite. So this is not sponsored, in any way, shape, or form. That's out of pocket. I've had this sitting around forever, and again, I was going to use this on another build, but I'm probably going to turn to Nylite for that other build. So I have that as an option, and I do already know that I can get one of these units tucked into the grill there. Just to kind of remind you guys, that's a similar 12-inch LED light bar tucked into the grill of Suburban Commando. So I know they'll fit. I might just do that. Other options include that cut-down ATV rack that I was going to use on Fugazi until I just wound up doing something else. So I might use that. Looks like it'll be a half-decent fit with the pan seat in place. Not sure yet, but it's an option. I'm obviously going to do some sort of front frame extension and bumper so I can get the winch mounted and all that. This still needs a custom exhaust or muffler or something like that, because right now the factory exhaust kind of points out the grill, and you know, that's just not going to fly. I do have a lot of work to do with this thing, you know, pitch the whole shebang in the build-off thread, but needless to say, right now pretty much the engine's in and the belt's on, and that's about it. I've got no control over the engine except for the push-button starter switch in the dashboard, and it just kind of revs where it wants to right now and all that stuff. And I'm going to lock the transaxle too. I haven't determined the method yet. I'll figure that out later. At some point, I have got to come up with a dock locker system for the 633 Roper transaxle, because I've got a few machines that need it. I'm going to redo the one on Commando, so I might figure that out on this build. Alright, had enough of that icy wind. Time to come in the shop. As you can see, I've got most of the components and parts and required bits and pieces I need to make that thing into, you know, a semi-capable trail rig. If I do decide to dock lock the transaxle or use some sort of, you know, solid shaft like I tend to do, believe it or not, I actually already have the parts for that too. I've got my scrap bin here. Every time the shafts come on sale, I pick one up, and I've actually got 3 or 4 now, just because I know I'm going to need them, right? 1-inch live axles. They're gold. I think I have another one of those hubs kicking around. You know, I've got parts, I've got stuff. Some of the things that I don't have, for example, is I don't have any kind of gas pedal yet. You guys know that I tend to use motorcycle brake pedals and ATV brake pedals and things like that because they're a lot more solid and stout. I know that guys like to use the bicycle brake handles. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of that, and here's why. It works, it's cheap, if not free. But in my mind anyways, there's 2 fundamental problems that I'm not willing to accept. It doesn't mean that you can't or won't, it just means I can't or won't. Number 1, here's a handle that's designed for your hand, and I'm smashing my boot on it. And in terms of durability or longevity, that doesn't seem like a great idea to me, even though guys have successfully used them for years. I understand that. You know, don't say, well, so-and-so's been using... I know. I just don't like it. The other thing that I'm not really keen on is the fact that there's no provision for a return spring on it. When I do a throttle setup with a gas pedal, and I've been doing this since my go-kart days, I use 2 return springs, one at the pedal, one at the carburetor. Especially in the case of an ungoverned engine, if your cable gets sticky, you know, not that we ever get any crap on our cables, or something like that goes wrong, you know, the handle bends or the pedal bends or something like that, you want that extra force to return the pedal to idle, especially with an ungoverned engine, because otherwise it can rev sky high and blow up. So worst case scenario, I might have to fabricate something from scratch. I'll see what I have kicking around. Paint. I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. This is a build that I'm spending no money on, so I gotta look through my paints. Hopefully I've got something reasonable. If not, it's gonna be baby crap green or frickin' pink. And if it is, so be it. I'm not spending anything. I don't care if it's baby crap green and pink. It'll be baby crap green and pink. From there on in, there's gonna be a little odds and sods and things that I do to it. It's probably going to wind up with an ammo can or a toolbox on it or something. This obviously isn't going to be my main trail rig, but you know, I want it to be just as functional if I decide to take it out, and I'm going to. So I'll just have to see what's kicking around the shop and stab some stuff on. Anyhow, that's it for the rundown on the Senseless Suburban. Thanks for tuning in and watching. And you know what? I'm going to do another video just as soon as I can, because I have taken a little bit of a break. I'm going to get some work done on that. I'm going to get some work done on Fugazi that's, you know, overdue. I'm going to get some work done on Commando that is long overdue. And, you know, I've kind of been slacking off. I'm sorry. You know, life, right? Anyhow, till next time, take care of yourself. Just a few short days ago, I was swimming in the Gulf of Mexico, having a grand old time, and here I am trying to find my sack again.